The house, flipping houses, wholesaling houses, all of that is saturated. I don't come across that much competition. There's enough business for everybody. The biggest thing I learned was don't quote prices over the phone. There's two times where a person was just pressing me to tell them a value over the phone. And I did, and I didn't get those deals. If I would have gone to that lady's house, I would have got her place.
Okay. Three, two, one.
Here we
Uh,
are.
this is
Hey,
good. Here we are. This is cool. We have been working together over a year now.
we had our kickoff call, I believe, the first week of January,
Wow.
and then of last year, of
Yeah.
11 months ago. And then I had some work to do. So I first started, I believe, the third around January 23rd or January 28th of this year. So it's been about 11 months.
What?
And I'm on my 11th deal.
Wow.
They should all be wrapped up by the 1 year mark.
Right on, Rod.
And it's been great. You know, I,
That's
Nobody can pay me to plug somebody. I just really appreciate what you've done. What you say you're going to do and what you do is pretty much the same. You've always been available. We had our agreement and I paid you for the deals we did, but you still are there. It's a 2 year commitment that you have with me. You've already made your money,
wow.
so you could become scarce with me, but you haven't. It's just really, I really dig how you work, man. You're a good guy.
Yeah. So much. I thank you so much for saying that. The bar is again set low for
Yeah.
if I can just do what I said I was going to do and treat you like a
No,
human being or like I want you to actually succeed. It's like, oh my goodness.
no,
What
I
a
mean,
what a mind.
for anybody that's watching or listening or however you see that, get this, you have really, the mobile home formula, the content is very good. And if I didn't understand something, you really went out of your way to explain it. And you were never short with me. And you really, I don't know if you really get what I'm saying, that you really, do things in a way that's head above other people. So I think that you really do a good job.
Thank you so much.
So I just
I
hope that
really
you let that sink in because you really do a great job.
all the time that we work together, you specifically you are you need some direction, you don't need hand holding.
Mm.
Um, so that means a
Yeah.
lot coming from you.
I think I didn't even talk to you for some of the deals. I just did them and then told you about them
Yeah,
later.
seriously. And I like to micromanage a little bit. So I'm like, oh, well, okay, what was this? Tell me about it. Oh man, yeah. But
But
you
that's a testament to you because you helped me wrap my head around all this so that as I started doing deals, I didn't even need to talk to you sometimes. I just knew what to do.
when did you know that mobile home was the real deal and that you wanted to keep doing it?
Well, I'll tell you one thing is that I watched your videos for a couple of years
Oh,
and I
wow.
kept thinking I want to work with this guy, but life gets in the way. I got a young son. I'm busy with other stuff. I'm busy with work. And I kept putting this off. Like about 2019, I was like, I should do this. And then I really did it, 4 years later. And I wish I would have done it then. So I just, you know, once I started doing it, I knew it was going to work because the beauty of this business is you can decide, do I want to work with mobile home parks? Do I want to work with private land? How do I want to do this business? Do I want to create notes? Do I want to move them from one to another, one part to another? There's so many different ways to do it. And when I first started, you gave me some directions and I started driving the different areas. So in my area, mobile home lot rent is about $1,000.
Wow.
They're anywhere from $950 to $1,100. The average is around 1,000. So I really didn't want to buy in a place where $1,000 rent. If I'm delayed for a month, that costs me 1,000. I'm writing a check for $1,000. And one thing I can tell you about me is I don't like writing checks for $1,000. So I went further afoot, and I live in the Washington D.C. area, and so we have West Virginia, Western Maryland, Pennsylvania, we have Delaware, and those are all good places that have mobile homes. And for 3 months, I was just driving around, and I hadn't gotten a deal, and I started to think, maybe I made a big mistake. I thought you were a good guy, and I thought the content was good. I thought maybe it just doesn't work here. But as I was driving, you see opportunity and it's like poking, you poke a bear. It's like you just look here. Okay, this might work. Okay, I look there, it's not working. And you got to just, I really thought, who the hell is going to call off a bandit sign? Who's going to drive past a telephone pole and say, oh, wow, I'm going to call that guy and sell him my house. But the reality is that people call off of those. They really do. And so almost all of my business has been off of there.
Wow.
I have a website set up that I haven't really worked on. My wife put it all together. I need to work on it probably when it gets cold, like in January when it's cold, I'll work on it. But almost everything is off the signs. And the reality is that, you do a deal and then slap up signs everywhere around there. And then you go to the next place and just keeps putting up signs. And, you know, and a lot of jurisdictions, they don't take them down. And if they take it down, you know where it was, just put another one back up there. So I've spent about, $100 on advertising, a big Sharpie marker, some yellow plastic and a staple gun.
And that's been working.
And that's been working. Yeah, it works. And the kind of people that call you off of a sign, there's a certain person that calls you off a sign. So they drive past, they haven't done any planning, they call you and you go there. Now, some people might say, get on the phone with them and qualify them. I don't. I go see almost every person until I'm that busy that I can't do that, because 90% of the houses I've seen, I've done the deal.
Wow.
Because when you go there, you can either buy their place, you can do a consignment, you can give them some advice that then they'll tell somebody else about you. So any way you cut it or slice it or dice it, there's a reason to go there. So, the ones that I buy for a low price, I sell for a high price. But on a consignment, I have no money out of pocket. Costs me nothing. The risk is nothing, and on those I've made like $5,000 or $7,000 without putting a dime out. So what do I have to lose?
You feel like the sellers that you're talking to are more, if you've done deals with most of the people that you're talking to, that sounds weird. I mean, for houses, doesn't seem the case. Like for mobile homes, is it like you're the only person at bat, or that once they meet you, they just want to work with you versus someone else, or they have so little options?
Well, there's a great book called Never Split the Difference. Have you ever read that book or heard of it?
Yes.
So that's a great book. And the reality is that you go and you talk to people. You just really need to talk to them. And if they wanted to list it with an agent, everybody knows an agent. They know where an agent is. They know how to call an agent. So they obviously didn't want to call an agent. So when you go there and you talk to them, I tell them, a lot of times I'll say like, yeah, you can hire an agent. It'll take a couple months to sell. You'll pay them $3,750, and they'll get this sold. And, but then I tell them what I can do, and they give me the deal. And that's one thing about this, it doesn't take that long to become an expert. After you've driven around, after you've seen the values, after you kind of get your handle on things, you start to know the values and you become an expert. And when you're talking to people, they listen to you as an expert. I've never had anybody say to me, when did you start doing this? How many deals have you done? So like the imposter syndrome, you can just get rid of that. They don't care.
They don't care.
No, they just want their money. They want their money. And, the biggest thing I learned was don't quote prices over the phone. There's 2 times where a person was just pressing me to tell them a value over the phone. And I did, and I didn't get those deals. If I would have gone to that lady's house, I would have got her place. I'll tell you an interesting one. I went to this lady's house and it was in really good condition. She was going into elderly, like independent living. She was in her 70s. And the place was really nice. And she told me the Department of Aged for Pennsylvania had come in and they gave her a new water heater. They gave her a new air conditioning unit. They did a bunch of work. They insulated the windows. The place was great. So I'm walking around and I said, how much do you want for this? And she's like, wouldn't tell me. And I'm like, so I'm like, okay. I kept walking, looking at the place. And then I said, well, how much did you buy this for? How'd you come across this place? And she said, I used to work with a guy and his parents lived here. And when they went into a facility, he wanted to sell it. And I said, how much did you pay? And she goes, he deeded it over to me, which means that she paid about $75 at the Pennsylvania Motor Vehicles to get it titled to herself. So now I know she's paid $75. So then we walk around some more, we sit down, and I know that whoever mentions price first is going to lose. So I said to her, how much do you want for this? And she just sat there, and I just sat there. We sat there for about 2.5 minutes, 3 minutes. And I didn't say a word, she didn't say a word. And finally she says, 8,000. I probably would have paid 10,000 for it immediately. So I said, well, I was thinking 6, but how about we split the difference and do 7? And she said, sure. So now those mobile homes in that park sell for about $35,000. This one had wood paneling and shag carpet. And what I did was we primered over the wood paneling. We painted a beautiful coat of gray paint, and we got rid of all the carpeting. And I'm in the process of selling that for $35,000. And the last thing I need to do is put in the carpeting and flooring. So, that was one of those, if I would have told her something, whatever I would have said, she would have countered it. I would have been shooting myself in the foot. So I always just say to them, what do you want? And that's what I was saying about, this business is very forgiving because, if you buy wrong, like I was saying, I drove around for 3 months and I wasn't getting a deal. So I thought, maybe I'm just defective, like Everybody else is getting deals done after a month or 2 or 3 months. And I've done 3 months of driving around. I don't have anything to show for it. You know, my wife is saying to me, what's going on with this? And I'm telling her it's going to work, but it wasn't, you know? So I came across a guy who was facing eviction. During COVID, he was disabled. And during COVID, they didn't press him, but he owed $6,900 to the park, including legal fees and costs. So the eviction was taking place in a few days. I called the park and they said, if you come down here and pay us the $6,900, we'll stall the eviction. So I went down there and I gave them $6,900. I agreed to give him $400 so that he could get in his truck and drive down to Tennessee and move. This was the raccoon house. Do you remember us with the raccoon?
Yes.
So this guy had a 2-bedroom place, and one of the bedrooms looked like a prison cell. It looked like a jail cell. And there was a raccoon in there. And the raccoon was urinating and defecating all over the walls and the floor. It stunk like crazy. And that was his pet raccoon. And I overpaid. But, you know, I wouldn't have got that first deal because if it went back to the park, that park wasn't going to sell it to me. So I overpaid. And then I made the next mistake of I went in there, I started ripping stuff out myself. I did a bunch of work in there for a couple of weeks. And it took a lot to get that smell out. What I didn't realize was I had to do the whole subfloor. It cost me $5,000 to do the subfloor.
Could
Now,
not get that cat urine out any other way.
to get everything out. But what ended up happening was one of the handymen that worked on the subfloor ended up buying it from me. I sold it to him on a note. And ultimately, I'm going to make a profit of $6,500. And I haven't sold the note yet. The last couple of months, I've received $350 a month. I have a good bit of my money back, and I'll sell that note. And whoever buys the note will get 12% interest. And if they have any problem with it, I'll probably even guarantee the note. I have no problem with that.
Did you say you were only making $650?
No, 6,500. $6,500 profit
On the note
when I sell that note. Yeah.
when you sell the note. Okay.
But you know, selling it cash, it was basically I needed to sell it. It wasn't in good condition. It now had a subfloor. It didn't have any flooring. It didn't have finished flooring. It had subfloor. But I sold it. And you know, that's what I'm saying about numerous exit strategies and a very forgiving if you make mistakes.
If you purchase it at the right price.
Yes. So in real estate, there's a saying, you make money on the buy side.
Mhm.
You make money going in. So, you know, I know you stress going in and looking at every little thing and doing a full inspection. I was at this place that I'm just talking about. I get a call. It's a guy 7 doors down, 7 trailers down. He says, I'm under contract on a new one. I want to sell mine. Can you come over? I said, I'll be over in 10 minutes. I walk over there. The place is a complete wreck. The floors are soft, everything. How much you want for it? I want $3,500. So you might think this is crazy. I said to him, I'll give you $4,500 because he hadn't talked to a single person about it. And if he did, if he told somebody, if I talked to him and told him I was going to give him $3,500, he would have talked to somebody in the neighborhood that night because he's always drinking with his neighbors. Somebody would have given him $4,500 anyway. So I said, I'll give you $4,500. We signed it up. So he goes, but I'm not settling on my new place for 2 weeks. So, you know, I need to live here for 2 weeks. So I said, look, I'll give you $4,500, $2,500 now, and the other 2,000 when you move out. But I want us to go down to the motor vehicles and we transfer title now. And this is one of the things that you always want to reduce risk. You don't want to depend on these people. You want to actually control things. So we went down the motor vehicles, we transfer the title. As we're transferring the title, they say down at the motor vehicles, it's going to take 60 to 90 days to get the title. So I said, I don't know if I can do the deal. And I'm holding the cash in my hand. And he says, I can wait the 60 to 90 days to get the rest of the money. So I said, okay, you have 2,500 now. I get the title. You get the other 2,000 when I get the title in the mail. He goes, that's fine. So 2 weeks later, he moves out of his place and I go get the keys. 5 minutes later, I'm showing one of my other places and the guy's like, this place is too small. I don't like it. He's like, I'm really looking for something that's beat up because me and my cousins were handymen and we want to fix something up. I said, I got a place. Go around the corner. And I show him this one that I just bought for $4,500 with only 2,500 down. And the guy goes, how much you want for it? I go, 13,000. He goes, I'll give you 11. Okay. Okay. So I have 2,500 into it. This guy's ready to give me 11, right? So I said, you need to get approved by the park. And, but you need to give me a non-refundable deposit. So he gives me a non-refundable deposit and he goes to the park and it turns out that he co-signed for somebody's car and that person got repossessed. So he couldn't get approved. So now this is Friday afternoon. I've just gotten the keys. I've sold him the place. And then Tuesday after the weekend, he is not approved. The next day, I sell it to somebody else for $13,000. The guy goes, okay, where's the title? I said, I don't have the title. So he gives me $10,000 and he's going to give me the remaining $3,000 when I have the title. So now I have 2,500 into the deal and I have 10,000 back into my bank. So the title just came the other day and I have the rest of the money in the bank and I didn't touch the place. I did not touch the place. I didn't do anything. I was only in there twice for 5 minutes. And, that's the beauty of this kind of, is just keeping an open mind. I didn't spend a lot of time looking at what was wrong with it because everything was wrong with it. The place was a handyman special. Everything's messed up. I just had in my head an overview of what was wrong with it. And I told the guy, I don't know anything about this. You're buying it as is. If there's anything pops up, you understand that I don't know anything about this place. This guy was from Puerto Rico, limited English, handyman, and he is happier than hell. He is so happy. And I went in there a couple days ago, and the place has luxury vinyl plank flooring.
Wow.
The bathtub, which was falling out of the bathroom down into the ground, has been redone.
Yes.
Everything's been redone. The place looks beautiful. They take care of their grandkid. He stays in there. Everything is beautiful. And that guy is thanking me that he had the opportunity to pay 13,000 for that.
Isn't that wonderful? I mean, to feel that you actually did something good, and he,
Yeah.
no matter what people listening to this podcast think, that buyer was very happy. They did the work. What do you think the home is worth now if he went to sell it?
He's not done yet. I think once he's done, he could probably sell it for about 28 or 30.
Cash? Yeah.
And I think right now it still needs some stuff, but he's on his way. I mean, the guy is in his 60s. He's like retired. That's what he used to do. And he's just doing it each day. He just does a little work. His wife was smiling. She's like, follows me around. She's like she's like in prayer position. She's like telling me how happy she is,
I love when we don't have to go and searching that hard for our next deal, when we're
Yeah.
building up a reputation or when things find us. Why
Yeah.
did both of those people choose, not why did they work with you versus someone else, but why didn't they just sell it on their own? I mean, if no one has done mobile home investing, this can seem very fake or like we're pulling the wool over somebody's eyes.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a good question because I went to, when I started poking around, I went out to West Virginia. I got a call and I went out to West Virginia and this guy had late 90s Fleetwood. It was single wide. It was in really good shape. And the park owner wanted to, when he sold, the park owner wanted to replace that with a new unit. So the park owner said, you need to get this out of my park, which kills his value. So I went there and I talked to him and I said, how much you want for this? And he said, I think he said he wanted 5,000. And I said, well, and I would have paid 5,000. I mean, I was happy when he said 5,000. I was like, okay, I'll pay the 5,000. But I said, well, I was thinking 3,500. So I always say that no matter what somebody says, I just say, well, I was thinking something else. So he says, 3,500. He goes, let's ask my wife. So we go in the living room and his wife's there. And he goes, honey, he said 3,500. She goes, that's exactly what I was thinking. Let's do it. So I buy this place for 3,500, but it needs to be moved. I put it on Facebook Marketplace and it says it has to be moved. You told me put on the pictures, must be moved. And all these people are calling me and they want to, they're like, okay, I want to buy it, but I want it to stay there because the price is low. I put it on at $14,000. I ended up getting $14,000. So, but what had to be done was I had to find a mover. I had to arrange everything and then say to somebody, it's ready to go. You just call this guy and he'll take care of it. And I got 14 grand.
But the 14 did not include the move.
14 did not include the move because those units are worth around 40 probably. That thing's worth about 40 grand. So now I'm selling it for 14. It costs 10 or 11 to move it and set it up. Now someone has 25,000 into it. I had mobile home park owners. I had all kinds of people. It got purchased by a mobile home park owner.
So that's okay. So that's a pretty sure thing. They were happy to pay 14.
They were happy to pay. And, the only thing that was a real problem was I put it on Facebook Marketplace. I just paid them $3,500 and I told them I need a month to move it. And then I put it I advertised it. And what happened was the wife saw the ad. So I think I called you about this. I was sweating some bullets on this one. So I put it on Facebook Marketplace and me and my wife and my kid, we went out of town. We were hanging with my friends and we're eating lunch. And all of a sudden on Facebook Messenger, this lady's like, I'm interested. Is it available? And I know it's the guy's wife. So I immediately called the guy and said, like, hey man, like, is there any issue? You know, I have to arrange the move and all this stuff. And he was like, no, we're fine. He goes, she just pressed that button by mistake. So she knew that I was buying it for 3,500, selling it for 14. That was the one time that I was a little like, whoa.
For folks listening, that yeah, that can be whoa. If it hasn't happened yet,
Yeah,
uh yeah, when you're buying a home, if they were out of the state, if they were out of the country, then that doesn't matter, even if it's maybe their land, or but if
right.
they've just sold you something, they live on the property or very nearby, especially their property, and it has to be moved, and that you still have some relationship, they can be, yeah, very emotional, upset.
Yeah.
Now, worst case scenario, usually you're saying you're giving them a little bit more money. I mean, a couple $1,000s would have greased the wheel,
Yeah, I
and they
could
would
have. So,
been
but she was fine. And I'll just tell you, you know, in this business, you have to be prepared for weird things to happen. So what happened was I had a bunch of people coming to look at it. And then one day I go there and the front and back stairs are gone.
yes, okay, yes.
And this neighbor guy kept asking me about the skirting. He was asking me about the steps, and I think he stole them. But the reality was it was being moved, and those steps aren't going to line up anyway. So it didn't really matter. So, but you know, for the last 2 weeks, I was trying to sell it. I had to, you know, I had to climb up into it, and then the people looking at it had to climb up into it. There was no steps. So, you know, it's this business, you know, you got to really be able to roll with the punches, you know?
That's a no one has ever said that. I don't know if we've ever said that on a podcast, but that's so true about embracing the weird and the unprepared, and that these homes are forgiving, but you have to buy them right. And then
Yeah.
part of the weirdness is that, you buy them right to then brace for some of the impact of the weird,
Yeah.
but you're still able to fall forward and make a good profit.
Yeah, and that brings up another point, which is that, you know, when they're in a park, it's a three-way deal. So there's me as the seller, there's a buyer, and then there's the park. And, you know, some parks are easy to deal with and some aren't. And you really need to get to the ones that are easy to deal with. Because I had one park, I had a lot of problems. One management company that manages a lot of parks, and they were a real problem. They had high turnover, and the district manager was taking care of everything. So she was doing her job plus another job. She was very angry. She wasn't angry at me. She was just angry at the situation of her job, you know, and it made everything difficult. So, you know, part of this is like dealing with people, like you got to go with your gut sometimes. Because what I found, especially recently, is there's a lot of people with money, but there's a lot of people that have money, they have cash, but they have bad credit. They can't get approved. So on two that I'm selling now, I've had like 5 or 6 different people say, yes, I want to buy this, and they couldn't get approved.
Wow, that many.
So what I do is I tell people, I say, okay, you want this? I said, can you get approved? They say, yes. I said, well, you seem pretty certain about that. So why don't you give me a non-refundable deposit, between $300 and $500? I said, I'm taking this off the market and I'm going to be sitting here for 2 weeks waiting. I said, you know, if you want me to do that, you have to commit. So I get $300, 400, something like that, non-refundable from them. And it's not about the money. I mean, I've kept a few of those, but the reality is that the people then have to soul search and go, okay, am I willing? Because if they don't have any, if they're just like hoping and praying and crossing their fingers, I'm the one sitting there waiting. And I'm not sitting there waiting for somebody to take a, you know, I saw a girl last week. She liked my place and she had money. And she said, I said, you know, you have to get approved. I said, you know, your credit score? She said, yeah. I said, what is it? She said, 300.
Wow, they
I
go down
said,
that low.
I said, is that possible? I mean, 300. I thought like with, you know, when you take the SATs,
Yeah,
I thought you get like 400 just for signing, you know, 300.
you have to really work on
Yeah,
that to get that low.
three repos in 1 year. You know
Okay.
this, I forget what they call it, buy here, pay here, car
Yes.
dealers. You know, you buy the car and you pay $100 each week. You have to go in and pay weekly. And if you don't, they have GPS tracker and they just come and get the car. So, but it counts as a repo. So she had 3 repos in less than a year. So, you know, so I think that, you know, you have to really look at who you're dealing with. You know, I had a deal recently. I rolled up to the place and the lady, as soon as I saw her, it was obvious she's active in her addiction. You know, she really looked beat up. She looked really sad. And, you know, she had this whole thing where she wanted me to give her a bunch of money. She wanted me to front her a bunch of money to move stuff out. It was a hoarder house. And I'm like, look, I just want to buy your place and I'll get everything out of here. I don't really feel comfortable, you know, getting you a truck and your guys moving stuff. And, you know, because she could have easily taken that money and just bought some drugs.
Big time.
And,
Big time.
you know, she basically flipped everything on me and told me that I'm a liar and that I miscommunicate. I know from 20 years of doing similar stuff to this, like negotiating with people. Nobody's ever said to me, you're miscommunicate, you're an ass, all that stuff. So I know where that was coming from. That was like her addiction talking. But sometimes it would have been pretty profitable, but those are the kinds of things where sometimes you just got to trust your gut and move on. And I won't return her calls and I won't deal with her. And I know that if I try to explain stuff to her, we're just gonna have a big fight. Her husband's in jail, her son's in jail, she hates her mother. You know what? I hope you get help. I hope you're all right. But I'm not gonna be, because whenever someone's telling you about this person's a jerk, that person's a jerk, I'm the next victim. And I don't like being that. So, sometimes you just gotta walk away. Sometimes the best deal is the one you don't do.
Wow, that is such a good point. You did not do that deal.
I didn't
Good
do
for
the
you.
deal, no. And then the next day I had a flat tire. I think she put a razor through my tire.
Really?
Yeah. So the next day I had a full, like you have in a box cutter, one of those blades through my
Yes.
tire. But I'm not sure. I might have picked it up at a gas station. So I'm
Yeah.
not quite sure. So I'm not saying she did that, but I'll just say that, if even if she did and it cost me $200 for a new tire, I'm perfectly fine with walking away from that deal and getting myself a new tire.
This business is a crash course in people. Do you feel
Yeah.
like you've changed with all of your previous experience you mentioned with negotiating,
Mhm.
even coming into mobile homes this last year? Do you feel like, oh, this is sharpening me a little bit, or this is making me a better something or other, or
Well, I think that, deal structure can be anything you can imagine. Like that one I told you about moving that property was like, I mean, not the handyman special, I just said to the guy, okay, you need 2 weeks to stay. So how about I just give you about half the money now? And then, the next day I'm showing it to people. It's like, how does it all piece together? And that's all whatever you can imagine. So,
good. Yeah.
I had a guy
Yeah.
call me 2 weeks ago and he's like, I own a house. He has a house on a bunch of acres and next to it is a mobile home. And he said, I used to always rent out the mobile home to, strangers. And then my stepdaughter, we had her move in and she trashed the place and we had to get her evicted. So he had to evict his own stepdaughter and now they don't talk. The girl doesn't talk to her mother or her stepfather. So the place is pretty trashed and it's an older unit. And the guy's like, I'll just give it to you. So I went over there and we transferred the title and now the title's in my name. He said, I tried selling it. I put it on Craigslist. I put it on for $1,500. Well, when you put it on for $1,500, all you're going to do is get like the lowest of low people calling you, and they're going to say to you, "Can I just live on the property? I don't know if I want to move it. Please help me." So he couldn't sell it. So I now found a mover, and the mover has given me a price quote. They'll move anywhere within a 25-mile radius. For all in, it'll be about $4,000. So now I know that in that condition, that place is probably worth $14,000, but we need 10,000. I mean, we need 4,000 to move it. So I'm gonna put it on the market for $10,000 and I'll probably get that. And I'm not gonna touch it. I'm not gonna do anything to it. And I'll just say to the person that wants it, but I'll advertise it. I'll let people know you have to have land to move it to. You can use this mover. I'll give you the phone number and do not ask me for it to stay. It is not staying here. And I'll sell it. And that's something that he didn't know how to do. And I do. And I'm not going to sit, hold that guy's hand and walk him through that. This is my business. So I'm going to sell it and make $10,000.
But the guy was happy it was pulled off his land.
It's not pulled off yet, but he's like, as long as it's off by springtime, I'm fine. The mover can go. If I called the mover today, they would have it moved the first week of January. Everything's set to go. It'll work.
And you're willing to take a discount and sell it as is. You have no mental problems with selling it as is versus fixing it up and making a couple more bucks.
No, I want to talk about that as well. Is that I think that, it's easy to buy something. Like I told you, I bought that one for 7,000 from the lady who was moving into an assisted living. Now, I bought it for 7,000 and I spent a bunch of time. I hired these two guys to paint it and they took forever. I mean, they were as slow as you could be. So the one guy was really, really beyond slow. The other guy was pretty good, but it was like they were trying to work together and they were both as a unit very slow. So, and I liked them. They were nice guys, but one guy was ridiculously slow. So, at the end of the day, that thing could sell for $35,000. But I probably could have just bought it for 7 and put it on the market for like 20 and not touched it and sold it quick. So, when you in this business, I don't think it's really wise to squeeze every dollar out. I think that it's better, everybody says, well, oh, you need to have a good handyman. Well, finding a good handyman is like, it's like walking through a snowstorm and finding $100 bills laying on the ground. It's like there's a good handyman. It's okay. Good handyman become contractors. Okay. Even contractors or handyman, a bunch of them, they know how to build, but they don't know how to do business, or they know how to do business, but they don't know how to build. Finding a person that's reliable, ethical, not going through a divorce, not going through drug addiction, not going through something, these guys they'll take your money. They'll tell you, oh yeah, I'll be back tomorrow to start the work. And then the next day their truck's broken down. Their wife just left them. They're using your money to pay for finish the last job, all kinds of stuff. So, finding a good handyman sounds like, oh, well, I'll find one. No, you probably won't. So the ones I've made the most money on are the ones that I just use paint and carpet, or just paint, or the getting into them just ties you up because you're paying lot rent every day. So I think that if I found somebody that was like a handyman, like either handyman or a contractor that I could partner with, like, okay, you should make 3,000 to do this work, but you'll partner with me, and when I sell it, you'll get $4,000.
Okay.
That way they have some skin in the game, something, I don't know. But finding a good contractor, and I'd also say don't waste your own time. Don't waste your own time putting in tiles and doing the work yourself, because that 1 month that I was working on the one with the raccoon, I could have bought a bunch of houses. Instead, I was in there ripping stuff out and, all kinds of nonsense.
Just to clear something up, if the home can stay in the park, you might do repairs to it. If a home has to be moved, you probably will not ever do repairs to it. Is that correct?
No,
Or
no. And I mean,
you might?
even the ones that can stay in a park, if you have the right park and the right management, like they don't care what I'm doing. They just want to make sure the outside they just want to make sure they're getting their lot rent. They want to make sure the outside looks fine. They don't really care about the inside. So, there are a lot of people, especially in that market that I work in, that they have skills. They have handyman type skills. They're happy to do it. And, I think that, it's a big waste of time for me to be in there painting, right? I'm not going to make, I mean, the thing about negotiating is when you become good at negotiating, there's nothing that pays better per hour. I had it's like that lady that if I would have quoted she said after the stare down, she said, I want $8,000. I could have just gone there and offered her 10,000 and she would have taken it in a heartbeat. And as soon as she said yes, I would have known I bid too high. So instead I got it for 7,000. How long did that take me? About 7 minutes. I made $3,000 in 7 minutes. Am I going to get paid $3,000 in 7 minutes to paint? No, not at all. So that's what I'm saying, the listening to people, talking to people and listening, they tell you everything you need to hear. And then every person has basically thanked me. No one has been mad. I bought an RV, an RV. I bought an RV where the lady, the husband and wife, older, and I went and I told them that, what do you want for it? They wanted $2,500. I said, fine. I knew I could sell it in a week for 5,000. I said, instead of me taking it over to where I live an hour away, can I just leave it here? They said, fine. I put it on, I showed it to 3 people, 1 person bought it. I made $2,500. I only went in there 3 times for like 2 minutes each time.
And the homeowner or the owners that sold you that, they lived close by, they knew what you were doing.
The guy who sold it was in his driveway. So I said, can it stay in your driveway for 3 weeks? In 3 weeks, it'll be gone. He said, fine. So about 2.5 weeks later, I sold it. I was only in there a couple times, made $2,500. And then we tried to go down to the tag and title place, and I forget what we were missing, but whatever it was. So the next weekend, the guy went and met with the seller, and they did the transaction without me. And I already had my $2,500. And that's what I'm saying, that this is like, you just have to think of how you want things to work. And the guy didn't care. He was an old guy. He was like, he got his $2,500. He didn't want to spend time advertising it. He didn't want to show it to people. The only thing I did was pressure wash the outside of the place because it had been sitting there for a long time. So, everybody gets what they need.
We're talking so far on this podcast, we've been talking about personal property
Mhm.
with titles, or not with the land so much. For all of these, because we're dealing with emotional people and we're dealing with
Mhm.
personal property, as we're going in this podcast, there's some people, or it's human nature to be just negative. Well, what if the owner would have stopped you? What if the owner would have, yelled at you or said you couldn't do this or called the police on you, or on that other one, you never get the title, like all just negative, 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 negative. You know,
Yeah.
for every one thing I could say it's going to work, somebody could say 10 things that won't. How does negativity, has it ever affected you? I guess you said for those 3 months it did. And how did you push through it, or how did you keep going? How
Well,
do
I
you
mean,
keep
you
going?
do have to believe in yourself. I live about an hour and 15 minutes from where most of my trailers that I buy are. And I usually advertise on Facebook Marketplace. And you get people, you're asking 20,000 for something, and they send you a thing, I'll give you 12 grand. Well, first off, they haven't seen it. Second of all, you go, okay, I'll give you 12, and then come see it, and then they go, oh, I didn't realize it has this or that. So I just tell people, they offer, I'm asking 20 and they offer me 12, and I say, not interested. And then they go, well, you didn't even counter. I said, I'm not countering you. I said, come look at it first, and then we'll talk price. And almost all those people disappear. But the reality is that on Facebook Marketplace, if 4 people tell you they're coming on Saturday afternoon to see the place, maybe 1 will show up. So you really have to, you can't say, okay, Saturday at 2, I'm going to show it to 1 person. And then Sunday at 2, I'll show it to another person. That's going driving up and back 2 different times. And both those people might not show. So I always have multiple people coming around the same time. And the beauty of that is they see another, they arrive early and they see the other people. I say, just 1 minute, it's been really busy. It's been really busy. So hold on 1 second. And, I just tell them, there's been a lot of people seeing this. And that way, they understand that somebody wants to buy it. And if they want to buy it, they got to step up. And they also realize that, not to waste my time.
So you could be disappointed in the short term. Your expectations could be let down. If those people didn't show up, you're expecting 4 people to come out. No, everyone stands you up. Your immediate expectations are, I'm disappointed. This isn't, just the normal negativity that goes through
You have to have faith. So
the long run.
I had a consignment deal I did. The lady wanted 5 grand, and I thought the place was worth 12 grand. I advertised it for 12 grand, and a lady came out immediately and she said, I'll give you 10 grand for it. And I thought she was a nice lady, but turns out she wasn't a nice lady. So she said, I'll give you 10 grand. I said, well, in my head, I'm going to wait over the weekend and see if it sells, and then I'll call her back. So then after the weekend, I called her back and I said, okay, 10 grand. She said, now it's 8. So I said, no, thank you. I kept advertising it. And then 2 weeks go by and she's like, I'll give you 6. So I said, not interested. So then, I was showing it, and I started to get a little worried. I thought maybe I don't know what I'm doing. Turns out a husband and wife, they're in their 50s, show up with their 25-year-old son, and their son is in the basement playing video games all the time, whatever. They're like, he's now going to live here. I don't know whether they helped him or he had his own money or whatever, but ended up selling it for 12. And I thought it was worth 12, and it got done. But I had to actually, dig deep to go, am I going to keep waiting? Am I going to wait, or am I going to, bail out now? And I think that, sometimes you have to really dig deep to see where you stand with stuff. So.
And you proved you did get the 12. You
I got the
validated.
12. I got the 12, but it took a while. And you only need one qualified good person to buy a property. And in this business, you're going to come across a lot of duds. In our area up there, there's a lot of people from Puerto Rico. And I love Puerto Rico. I mean, they're good people. But what happens is in Puerto Rico, they don't do things the way they do it here. So in Puerto Rico, a lot of people buy things with cash. So you could have a 40 or 50-year-old person that moves from Puerto Rico up here, and they don't have bad credit, they have no credit. So, I have these people show up, they have $20,000 in an envelope, but they have no credit score. So, you really have to, and then some of them, after they move here, banks and all kind of payday loan places, whatever, they end up ruining their credit very quickly sometimes. So they had no credit for 40 years, and then they've been here for 1 year and they have bad credit. So, you just got to really talk with people. You say to them, can you get approved? They say yes. But then you have to say to them, okay, do you have income? Oh, no, I don't have income. Why do they care if I have income? I'm paying for the house. Well, because you have $600 a month lot rent you have to pay. They expect that you have about $1,800 in income so that you can pay your bills. Oh, I didn't think of that. So there's just you have to ask more than one question. Like the question is can you get approved? They say yes. Immediately they say yes. Then you say, have you had any repossessions? Oh, a couple. Have you had any evictions? A couple. Have you ever been arrested? Well, not for anything violent, just some gun charges. And they think a gun charge, they caught me with a gun in my car. Well, mobile home park owner management company typically thinks that if you've been something with a gun and you were arrested and convicted, they have a problem with it. It's funny, huh?
Amazing.
Who knows?
Who'd have thought?
So it's it's kind of business where you have to like really poke and prod and ask. And if you don't ask the right questions, you're not gonna get the answers. No one's gonna tell you.
And you're doing this for your business to make sure that everything goes smoothly, but also for the buyer, not to set them up for some failure. You've sold them the home, now they can't
Yeah.
get approved, and now you're just take the money and run.
Yeah. And then like I've done one note and I'm probably going to do a second note, and I told the people, I said, listen, you know what? You're nice people. You work for the construction company that did my subfloor. I like you guys. They're young. They had two babies and they have a third one on the way. But I said, I'm the bank. I said, when your toilet doesn't flush, don't call Bank of America, call the plumber. And so I said, I'm going to lend you, I'm not lending you money because I already have the money into this deal. I'm not putting cash out of pocket, but I'm seller financing this. I am the bank. And you need to have insurance on this property. And if it lapses, I'm going to put insurance on it and it's not going to be cheap. So you should keep the insurance in place. Each month you pay me and each month you pay your ground rent. And I'm going to check to make sure you pay your ground rent. And, you got to lay it out like that because after about, I think it was the second month, they owed me their payment. It's $350 a month. And they said they ran into a little problem and work's been short and all this stuff. And I said, well, just pull out your agreement and read it because I have the right to take back the property and I will. I said, I'm not a mean guy. I said, this is my business. This is what puts food on my table for my wife and my kid. And if you don't have the money, would you call Bank of America and tell them you were short on work this month? They don't care. And I feel bad for you that you don't have work, but I can't help you.
You can't. Month 2 is unacceptable. Month
Yeah.
20, hey, let's
If you
talk.
had a track record with me for like 20 months and there was a blip, we can talk. But when you know, a lot of people they call you and they want to do a rent to own. And they're not lying to you. They're hopeful that they can turn things around. But most people don't turn things around. Most people cross their fingers and hope that they're going to get something better going, and they don't. And you're their next, you end up being their victim. So I don't want to put myself in those positions.
What you're saying is so true. I've lived it, I've experienced, and even here, another human being say that to me, like to validate. It's like, yes, you are. That is, we
Yeah.
want the best, or we would think, well, if I was in their shoes, here's
Yeah.
what I would do. But that's not, it's apples and oranges.
Look, I forget the stat, but they say something like 70% of Americans could not afford an unexpected $400 or $450 expense.
Is it really
So,
that much?
that's really like your car getting towed or one or two flat tires or like people are, living, hand to mouth. And that's a terrible situation. But the reality of it is that affordable housing in this country is there isn't a lot of it. And we're providing a roof over someone's head. And we're providing something that people need. And that doesn't mean that, I just go around and grab all the homeless people and say, hey, here's a place you can sleep in. People that are willing to work and people that are willing to think and do the stuff that's necessary, they'll have a roof over their head. And people like John, people like me, people like anybody that's listening right now, you can help somebody. But you can only help people that want help. Someone told me a long time ago when I got into real estate because I had Section 8 tenants. And they said to me, and not every Section 8 tenant is bad by any means, but somebody said to me, they said, there's two kinds of people in the world, givers and takers. And givers don't understand takers and takers don't understand givers. And I've never been let down by that because I found that, to some people, if I'm generous, they're just scratching their head like, this guy's a fool. But I don't think I'm a fool. You know, I give, I give when I can. And sometimes when I give, I know I'm probably not getting it back. And, you know, just have to keep adjusting. That's the name of this game is adjusting. So like when it gets cold, I want to start working on my website. I want to start looking into more private land deals. I've come across a management company that manages about 10 different parks. So, okay, what do they have in these different parks? Where's their opportunity in those parks? Because I've really only hit 2 or 3 of their parks. Where's the other opportunity? Now they're calling me. This is one thing I wanted to bring up to you, John. A long time ago, I worked for a company that was buying houses as investments, and I would deal with brokers. And this guy that's very successful, he said to me, brokers will call you and offer you something. And if you tell them no, they'll call you maybe 2 or 3 more times, and then they'll forget about you and they'll move on to the next person. So he said, whenever someone calls you, tell them no, either say yes and buy it, or tell them no, but tell them the reason why you won't buy it. So for example, someone offers you a mobile home and you say, oh, I don't buy 70s and 80s. I only buy from 1990 on. Or, oh, I only buy Fleetwoods or whatever it is. You tell them that, then they put in their notes what you're looking for. And after a while, people will call you with exactly what you need. But if you keep just telling them no, they forget about you. So, everything you do is like, so I'm working with this one park and I've been buying some cheaper ones, so they said, oh my God, they started talking about this one that just sold for 25 grand. It's a double wide and they're worth about 90 in that park. And it sold for 25. And I said, oh, who bought it? She said, oh, that so-and-so is an investor and they bought it. And they said, we didn't realize that you buy that stuff. The reason they don't know that I buy that stuff is because I never told them that I buy that stuff. So you have to really let people know what you do, what you will buy, what you won't buy. Oh yeah, I buy stuff on private land. I buy junkers. I buy ones that can be moved. If you tell people that, then they'll think about you. If not, whoever's in front of them is going to get the deal.
Isn't it? Going back to your negotiation that you were mentioning before, just using your vocal cords to say a couple of different words bought you an extra 3 grand or saved you an extra 3 grand.
Yeah.
Yet with these managers, we have to, we say, oh, we're an investor. And I think, oh, the manager must know what I do. But we have to connect the dots for these managers about, oh, do you have people behind on payments getting evicted? Call me. Oh, you deal with that? Or send me homes that are too beat up that you don't want to fix. Oh,
Yeah.
you deal with that? Or send me more expensive homes, 25, 30
Right.
grand. Oh, you
Yeah.
deal with that?
So, I mean, some of the parks, they've been burned by investors, so they don't like investors. Other parks, um, they just see people come and go. So they don't really, so like with this one management company, they manage a bunch of parks. I came in and I did what I said I was going to do. I always pay them. I always make sure they're paid. I always communicate with them. It's the 5th of the month and I'm ready to sell it, but it didn't sell. So I tell them it's the 5th. I can come in today and pay you so that you don't have to wait another day. All those things go a long way. And then now they're calling me and bringing me stuff. And, now I have the park manager's cell phone. Before I had her office number, now I have her cell phone number. And, it'll develop. I'm going to start talking to her about, she offered one to me, but now I think she's doing it herself. And I'm going to talk to her about, can we partner or can I pay you money? And is that okay with you? Because I don't want to seem like I'm trying to grease a wheel that shouldn't be greased. So, all those things have to develop and it takes a little time. I mean, I've only been doing this 11 months. I've done, by the time that the 1 year anniversary comes up, I probably will have done 11 deals. And, there's a million ways to slice and dice this thing. It's really great. So, yeah, I don't know.
And you still got more to do. You're an hour and change away, but there's still, I just heard it a couple minutes ago, not every park knows who you are.
Yeah, I haven't hit
Obviously.
some of the areas, I've decided you can also decide the things you don't want to do. Like I don't want to spend $1,000 a month lot rent somewhere. Some of these parks are poorly run. The people do not understand. When you try to explain to them about flipping properties, the managers sometimes they're like high school, just out of high school kids. They don't really understand what you're talking about. And I don't know. So you really just want to go where the opportunity is,
You wouldn't be, if there was a good deal in $1,000 lot rent park, have you passed on those good deals or you just really haven't seen any
Well,
that
like I
were
went and looked
obvious?
at one, it was $1,000 lot rent. The place was completely trashed, the subfloor, everything was trashed. And I told them, I said, maybe give you like $3,000. Maybe you just turn the title over to me and you don't have to pay lot rent anymore. And it was like they had taken the old lady out of there to a home. She had dementia or something. And the roof was leaking in. It was just like a box, like a leaking box, So they were telling me it was an attorney's office that was dealing, they're like trust attorneys, state attorneys or whatever. And they were like telling elderly care attorneys something. They're telling me like, you have to pay $10,000. Well, I'm
Okay.
not paying you $10,000 and getting a thing that's worth nothing and then paying $1,000 a month and spend months fixing it up. Like, so with you want to deal with motivated sellers. When you talk to someone, you can tell who's a motivated seller. Sometimes I talk to people, I don't go on everyone because sometimes people have like an $80,000 double wide and they want $80,000. And you talk to them and they're like, well, I could sell to an, oh, there's one deal with a pastor. This guy was a preacher guy. And I don't know, like everything just kept changing. Like his wife was an agent. I said, well, why doesn't your wife do it? Well, someone else in their office is going to sell it. And then I said, the only way you're going to get this money is to list it. But instead they consigned it to me and they want the top dollar and I couldn't get it. So I said, just go back and sell it the way you wanted to sell it. Like sometimes you have to just let things go, like this isn't working. Here you go. And the guy, I'm sure he sold it. But when people want top dollar and you don't really see any opening of how it's going to work, sometimes you just got to thanked them. Like, I wish you well. Here's my number, you know. Basically what I'm saying is, here's my number. In 3 weeks, when it doesn't sell, give me a call back. But you know, in this world, you can't really say that to people.
How long did no, no, or that even if you're right,
Yeah,
you're wrong. I mean,
right.
you won't get the deal because even if you're right, in 3 weeks they'll still think badly of you.
And sometimes
It's
they're delusional. I had a guy, his place was completely a mess, and he's telling me he's behind like 7,000 on his lot rent. And he's telling me that he won't take a penny less than $10,000. And if I don't buy it from him, he's going to hire the top guy in town, the top agent in that area is going to represent him and sell it. Well, first off, agents want, like, between their fee and the buyer's, they want $3,700. Okay, so even if you could sell it for 10 grand and you have to pay 3,700 in fees and you owe 7,000 in back rent, you're still losing money. But you know, he's like in my face telling me, you know, here's what I'm gonna, if you don't buy it, I'm gonna list it with the best agent. I'm like, well, I've been an agent. I know that the best agent in town is not selling $10,000 beat up trailers. But you can't, you know, you can't explain some people you cannot explain to.
no, there's no rationalizing with irrational folks.
Right.
And once they start getting to that confrontational point,
Yeah.
my thought of doing the consignment is out the window. Once you're getting aggravated with me, or you're
Yeah.
starting to not berate me at all, but I mean, I'm not going to switch over and say, okay, let me help you more and trust you
Mhm.
that this is all going to work out fine when clearly you're already
It's
upset with
almost
me.
now as if when I talk to somebody, they say hello and we talk maybe for 2 minutes. I know this is a person I'm probably going to do a deal with, just from how they're talking, how they operate, how they, you know, come across. And then I've had people where, like, they just keep talking. They call me, and before I even say hello, I got this mobile home, blah, 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 blah. They don't stop. And those people don't listen. And then when you go visit them, they don't listen. And then when you try to tell them, okay, we're going to do this consignment deal, they don't understand because they don't listen. You know, the biggest thing,
Yes.
the biggest thing to do is find people that you can work with and then work with them. And people that are knuckleheads are
What a
always going to be
concept.
knuckleheads, and just let them be, you know?
How long did you deal with that? Uh, the person that wanted what, 80 or something, and you said you knew that you weren't going to get it, but how long did you take their property under consignment, try to sell it, and before you just
Like
bailed?
2 weeks.
Oh, so it wasn't that long. Okay,
No, because
good.
he really wanted to get it done. And oh, the other thing about it was that was in a park where the park owner was he wouldn't approve people. Just like he's like, I don't like them, I won't approve them. He I forget what else he did. He charged $150 per applicant for application fee, and that's illegal in the state that was in. You're only supposed to be able to charge a set amount. Like, he did all kinds of things, and he was the head of the mobile home association in that state. So he kept
Wow.
telling me, I was the head of the mobile home association. And I'm like, well, I know what the application fee can be on a property. It's considered a property. Even though it's personal property, they still have to follow the same housing rules. Like, you can't put up a mobile home ad and say no black people allowed, no Jewish people allowed. You have to follow housing laws. And so this guy was doing all kinds of stuff that was not right. But he kept telling me, like, I was the head of the association. What do you know?
All
Well,
right.
you know, it doesn't matter what I know. I know that I'm not going to do a deal with that guy. He's going to be a blockade. And anyone that's going to block you, you got to find a way around. You know, you can either back up and run harder into that wall, or you can go around that wall, or you can just say, I'm done. And so, you know, a lot of this is learning to just say, I'm done.
It's nice that we have the option to do these consignments, or for folks listening,
Yeah.
more similar to a wholesale where we don't have to put in the money, and you can learn those deals that you backed out of,
Mhm.
dealing with that guy who's the head of the association, and then also dealing with the 80th, the guy that wanted so much. That's valuable insight. I mean,
Yeah.
if you sold it, you would have learned something. The fact that you couldn't, that just
Mhm.
makes you a more knowledgeable investor. So you're still, it's still valuable, even though you walked away. It was
Yeah. I
still
mean, I
very,
think that everything that happens in this business, it layers up so that you keep getting knowledge. And like I said earlier, it doesn't take much for you to then become an expert. And then when you're an expert, you know, people think of you. So, like, I'm getting ready to do a deal where the park, a guy sold his unit, he sold his 1,800 square foot double wide,
wow.
and now he has no place to go because he thought it was easy to sell, but he didn't realize about buying. So now he's trying to buy, and he's between a rock and a hard place. A moving truck is coming today to take all his stuff away, and he has no place to go. And the park called me and said, you know, he doesn't want to stay in this park, but can you take him somewhere? And I'm probably going to do a deal with him tomorrow. And so, you know, you have to solve people's problems. You know, that's part of our business, is solving people's problems. And when you solve people's problems, you should make some money.
It's the fun part. Or to me, that's
Yeah.
the
You
fun
know,
part.
and this guy, like this guy I'm dealing with right now, he's made a bunch of mistakes and he doesn't think through things. and hopefully I can help him. And at the end of the day, I might help him and he still might feel like, because he doesn't really grasp things that well, but we'll see. I'm trying my best to help him. I'm doing my best to be honest and forthright and do what's right for the guy. And hopefully it'll work out for the guy. I'm under no obligation. I mean, if we don't do a deal, I mean, he's gonna have to find a place to live.
Your business is going to be just fine.
Yeah, I'll survive with or without him. So yeah.
Any, we've been talking for longer than expected. Anything that you wish you would have been more prepared for coming on? Anything that would help
No,
newer folks that you can think of, or
just do it.
nice?
Just do it. Like I said, I started thinking of this in 2019 and I pulled the trigger with you in 2023. And that was 4 years that I could have been doing this. And it's a great business because I do think I go up there and do my business when I want to do it. I'm home when I want to be home. My kid has soccer. I have an 8-year-old. My kid has a soccer game. I have appointments in the morning. I'm home in the afternoon for a soccer game.
Yes.
Some weekends I don't want to work. I don't work. Some weekends I work the whole weekend. It's coming up on Christmas. So Saturday and Sunday this weekend I worked and I'm going to work because I need to get these sold. But we're going to go away for a few days. We're going to have a nice holiday. So to anybody that's out there, this is John is a great teacher. If you've watched his videos on YouTube, that's who he is. There's no like he just, puts on a front, puts on his mask and is an actor. This guy is what you see, what you hear. This is him. And he's been awesome and he hasn't shied away. He's really helped me a lot. And I used to watch those videos and say, one day I hope I can be on one of those videos. So I really appreciate you giving me this time.
That's incredible. Thank you for saying all that. And you've earned it. Clearly, you've stepped up, and it's incredible to see
The
people
funniest
around
thing I
the
want to say to
country.
you is, with the partnership deal is that the first 2 deals we do, we have a split of the profits, right? Remember I told you this? I said you should tell people that they give you the profit from the 5th or 6th deal. My first 2 deals sucked. My first 2 deals were terrible. They got better and better. So that's all I can say is that, you're a very generous guy.
I still need to, yeah, not the
Yeah.
smartest guy. I need to do
Yeah.
better. That might be a
Yeah. Take the
change
money
for
from their last deal.
2024.
Yeah. But I thank you a lot. I really appreciate it.
Incredible. You're so welcome. It's been awesome to see what you've done and then hear and hear the stories and then hear how when you say something, it's like, yeah, yeah, okay, I'm glad you did that or did it that way. And then
Yeah.
with the
And it's a
stuff
good
on
thing just to run
land,
things off him and he'll tell you like, oh, people have tried that. It doesn't typically work. You know, if you have something you're selling for like 10 grand and you get $2,000 down payment and finance the rest, they're probably going to flake. They're probably going to walk. You're going to be disappointed, you know? But if you're selling for something for 10 grand, you get 5 grand from them, they're not going to default.
yes.
So, just really, you got to always lay it back on the people for them to have to show up. That's my opinion.
We can do as you were like you can do the whole deal right, and then you sell it on a note like you were mentioning for the folks that have an interest. Oh, I want to sell on a note. And that you have you just have a nightmare from that point on. You did everything right,
Yeah.
100%. And then that you made a mistake at the end,
Yeah.
mile, and it
Right.
just causes a nightmare moving forward or,
Yeah. So,
worse. So just there's
it's just
always,
really, it's a people business. If you don't like people, really don't do this business.
oh, so true. And
You
if you don't
know,
like people, what would you, well, I guess you can do something with behind the computer
no, I mean, I have friends
for
that are
tax stuff.
engineers, they're accountants, and
Oh, that's
their people skills are a little different. But I mean, if you really are into talking to people, you know, we up in my market, people are just good, hardworking people. They have good values for the most part, and they just want a place to live, and they're really talking about getting through life, just surviving, and they're good people. And so if you like talking to people, and they show up in a nice Jeep, and you're talking to them about cars and stuff, and you meet some good people. But if you don't like people
really,
and you just like numbers, maybe hire somebody else to go out and talk to the people. I don't know.
yes.
But yeah,
So because people can tell that.
yeah,
As good as you think you are, if you're not caring about them or you're just into it for the numbers,
yeah,
that's going to have a direct impact on your
yeah. There's
business.
that saying, people don't care what you know, they want to know that you care.
It's yes.
Yeah. And I
And
believe that. So once you're being honest with them, you're talking to them and they see that you're not just like I've told people, I said, well, that's not going to work. And we just they expect that you're going to chase it. They're telling you about their mobile home like that's the only pretty girl to dance. I'm like, well, I'd say I'm busy. I'm busy. If this isn't going to work, let's move on. You have to be that way. If people could smell it, like when you walking down the street, you could tell someone's going to hit you up for money. It's like you can just tell, right?
yeah.
When you act like you really need the money, then people are like, oh, let's see what we can get out of this guy. I tell people, we can do it or not. I don't care.
It's all those things. And well,
It's the
and you
reality.
mean it as well. Yes, it
Yeah,
is.
for sure.
You have more to do. There's homes on land. There's the parks even. If you're,
There's so much to do.
yeah.
You know, there's so many different ways. And this is a good business. You know, the house flipping houses, wholesaling houses, all of that is saturated. I don't come across that much competition. There's enough business for everybody. You know, I have no fear. Even if I told you exactly where I work, you'd go up there for a long time. You wouldn't understand where to make money or anything. It takes boots on the ground. So that's about it.
Thank you so much. This
Thank
was a
you.
great podcast.
All right, man.
I'll end it right there.